G'day guys, what's cracking? It's Ralph here, and it is important to go on adventures, is it not? It's the reason it makes you feel alive. So welcome to my adventure this morning. I'm on my way to a location that I've never been to before, but I spotted the other day when I did a tourist activity. I jumped on the Quackaduck, which is this massive like Humvee kind of vehicle that they've made to drive on the land and in the water, and it took us on the water and showed us around as we had family up. And as it was doing that, I noticed the spot that might be perfect for a landscape shot of the city. And so it's currently 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm walking down here with this light blazing in my face and I can't see where I'm going. So every time I take the light off my face, it's so that I can find my way and not fall into the water. I've never seen a photograph taken from the location that I am establishing myself in this morning, so there might be good reason for that. So I'm currently hiding behind this tree. I don't know if you can see it. It's like a big spiky pandanus, but it's not quite a pandanus because there's hurricane force winds coming off the water. I'm nearly blown away. I put my hat on backwards because it nearly came off. So I just want to, we're going to go out in the wind for a sec, and I'm going to line up the city with where the sun's coming up using PhotoPills, which is a great app if you want to detect where the sun is going to rise from. So you go to sun, you click on AR, and it gives you a big orange streak. It says the sun is going to come up from this direction, which changes the way I was thinking about my shot. I'm going to shoot wide. I'm going to shoot super wide to catch the city on one side with its lights and the sunrise on the other. And we're going to go for a pano result. Alright, so what you've got to know about this scene is the light comes up super quick. So in the space of 4 minutes, you can lose 2 or 3 stops if you're doing a long exposure. And so this is the exposure I just took, and as you can see, it's overexposed. And I can edit it so it looks like this, which is much better, right? But what I felt is because of where the sun's coming up, which is just here, it means I need a wider shot. I want to position the sun more toward the center, not in the center, but more toward the center. And so I've had to move the camera. So what I've done is I've moved the camera down here so that it's on the beach. Beforehand, I was standing just here, and I've moved it there so that I can avoid this tree. But I want to shoot it really wide, so I'm basically shooting to the left of this tree, and I'm shooting the entire city all the way around to where Q1, which is the tallest residential building in the southern hemisphere, finishes. At the moment in this shot, it has a lot of sand and a lot of water and a lot of sky. I really want the sky because the sky is going to be moving across as the clouds go across. We're going to get some long exposure from that, and so in order to do that, I'm just going to crop up, so it's going to be a pano finish. Unfortunately, I've had to jump onto my phone to vlog the rest of this because my other battery that looked like it was in fine health is carked in. Which is a bit of a bummer, so hopefully the wind and the colour is alright for these purposes. Now there's an orange glow that's coming up over the city, just over here. That's where the sun's going to come up, and as you can see, it's highlighting these clouds. But over here we have a contrast of a storm. That's a storm rolling in the city, so there's going to be a lot of rain come soon, so hopefully I can get out before the rain comes. But I'm shooting on an aperture of 9, and I can increase my long exposure by increasing my aperture. So if my aperture to 11 or more, it allows me to have a longer exposure. And so I'm just going to bang off some shots, and then I'll get back to you. The C9 allows me to do extended long exposure, so beyond 30 and 60 seconds, providing you put that setting on. Today I've decided to use my traditional, it's a 16 to 24 wide lens, and I use it a lot when I do real estate shooting, but I felt for today, if I had it in the bag, it would allow me to have super wide, which I don't normally prefer for a pano shot. And I've also come lower so that the subject, which is the city, seems a little bigger. If you shoot down, and we're talking about fractions of a degree, right? But you make the most of what you can. But if you shoot down on something, it looks smaller. If you shoot up on something, it looks bigger. So the lower I can get, the bigger the city looks, and the city is the subject in this photo. But with a long exposure, the water is all smoothed out, so it looks really nice. And the dogs that are behind me jumping around, they just vanish, just like that. As the colours start to increase in the sky, and I have no idea if you can see them, but you should be able to, so as the colours increase in the sky, you can lessen your exposure length, which picks up the sharpness and the beauty of some of the colours as they highlight the clouds, and you can actually use that image with an image you took earlier to have really smooth water but really sharp sky. So you can play around with these different contrasts. The beauty of shooting this in the morning is you have the sun rising. The beauty of shooting this scene in the evening is you have more lights on in the city, because people, when they wake up, they usually wake up in daylight hours, so there's no need to turn on the lights. You don't go to bed until later on, so they have the lights on. So it's probably worth me coming back here, take a sunset shot, which would have much more light in the city, but you wouldn't have the light behind it. If it were possible to leave my camera exactly where it was, you could get a fascinating shot of the popping lights of the city. You completely manipulate it, and it's not kosher, right? It's not really the best way to do landscape photography, but you get the best of both worlds. But as in all situations, you never get the best of both worlds, and we're being authentic to what this is. And so here's a shot I've just taken to show you the update of how the morning's going. Now you notice the water has this beautiful choppy effect as the golden sun starts to bathe it. I really like that. And if you put it on long exposure, I actually don't like it. So I love the sky on long exposure, and I love the water on a short exposure, because it seems to give the light more of a dynamic and a texture. And so you need to play around with these things. But if you keep your camera in exactly the same position every time you shoot, you can then play around with the different effects or layers on top of each other as you're editing later on. And you want to know something really interesting? See this white house right behind me? Can you see it? It's about there. That's Nicole Kidman's house. You know, the actor, Nicole Kidman, her house. Not sure she's ever lived there, but her house. This is my setup at the moment, so that's what you can see. And I've tried to capture the entire city. So if I move my hand in front of the lens, that's where the city finishes over there. And then it goes all the way across to halfway through the Sundale Bridge. That's the Sundale Bridge right there. So we're looking from there all the way across to there. You see what a wide lens can do, and it's perfect if you want to shoot a pano. And I've got it's 45 megapixel camera, the old Z9 is, so that means even when I crop it down, it's still going to have some good quality to present, rather than put a panoramic lens on that I just wouldn't use enough to warrant buying. But I would encourage you to move your settings up and down, because as you move your settings up and down, it changes what the colors look like. And so it's a really handy thing. So like if I look at this, I'd never shoot on 22, but let's say I go to just here, and that's really pinky and red and just vibrant and amazing. That's what that looks like. So it's different, right? You're like, oh gee, that's a fair bit different than that. So you can play with these settings, and it picks up the purples in the sky. But what I'd encourage you to do is preserve the highlights. So you see these colors here, that's the highlights, the light bits, and these are the darkness. It's much easier in editing to bring up the darkness than it is to tone down the highlights. But when you bring up the shadows, the result is often noise. So you need to keep those things in mind and balance out the shot. I've been here a good couple of hours now, and no Nicole. I told her I was coming. Is that creepy? I didn't really. That would be creepy though if I did, wouldn't it? Yeah. She's kind of old now. I might not even recognize her. So I'm going to push that to the limit. So let's see how far I can push it before I lose some of that colour. I reckon the colour's lost there. So I reckon that's good. Let's shoot that. It's 3-second exposure. and you want to keep never expand your aperture up to its full breadth, because as you do that, or its full anti-breadth, because it's quite small, because you have light diffraction and it makes things blurry when they should be sharp. So keep it on 20, you could even go down to 18 to be safe. And in this scenario, you could go 18 and then you could compensate with the shutter length, and it gives you this shot, which is, it's just beautiful. Remember what I was talking about, the water? Just been that choppy, glassy, golden glaze. If we just zoom in on that, bit of a gander about what's going on. Yeah, and see that's on 3-second exposure. I like it when it's choppier, but if we go choppier, we lose some of that color, because we can't make it darker because we run out of aperture, right? Get the gist of this? It's all fun and games, isn't it? The sun's coming up very soon. It's going to come up just through here, and as the sun comes up, I'm hoping that I can actually get some real sunburst come through those buildings. But here's another interesting thing. So that's what the back of my camera looks like. There's a lot of color in it, but when you look, that's actually what it looks like to my real eyes. So there's not much color there, but if you change the exposure, you can extract more color that's in the scene, because there are very gradual purples and yellows and pinks, and so those colors can be preserved and enriched and brought out. I love the contrast of this shot, from like nice and sunny to nice and stormy, and that cloud bank that's coming through just here, that adds another dynamic to it as well. If we can just get a lightning strike on the top of Q1 over here, that will be a banger of all-time bangers. So that storm that was over there has just come overhead, and as you can see, I'm drenched, so I had to grab my gear and run under this little that was the thing I was hiding under before when I was talking to you right at the start of the vlog. But now the colours come through in the sky. So sunrises and sunsets have this kind of burst of colour, and then it fades to boring, and then it bursts of colour again as the sun begins to come up. And so that's what we've caught here with some of these highlights of the clouds, which are really pretty. Some of the lighter, higher cloud over there. And so we've nabbed that shot, but I kept my tripod where it was. So I grabbed my camera because it was pouring, protected the camera, cleaned the lens, and then came back and I could put the camera back exactly where it was on the tripod, because your tripods are sturdy, you don't need to worry about them in a bit of weather. I don't know if you can see it, but over here you have these sun rays that have been split through the cloud, but you can only capture them on a photo if you shoot well underexposed by about 3 full stops, which is heaps not good for this, because it puts all this in absolute darkness. Here's an example of that, but you can rescue some of it in edit, and here's what that looks like. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning. I hope you've learnt something and you've gained something just by watching this vlog. Be keen to know what that might be. So if you gained something specific that you really enjoyed, put it in the comments below, or let me know why you watch me. I'll be delighted to chat with you there. I hope you enjoyed the photos. The photos are always for sale, so if you find one that you really like, just get in touch. Please subscribe, like the channel. You can even join the channel. It's always really encouraging and amazing when people do that. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.